The night smelled of gasoline and arrogance. The fluorescent lights above Oak Ridge gas stop flickered weakly as Ethan Miles leaned against the counter, trying to ignore the sound of laughter coming from pump number 3. It was late, nearly midnight, and the only people still awake were the ones chasing money or running from it. Ethan was both. He had grease stains on his hands, a half-torn name tag on his shirt, and a phone that hadn't stopped buzzing with overdue payment reminders. His shift should have ended an hour ago, but when you're broke, you don't argue with overtime. Then he heard it, the growl of an expensive engine. A midnight blue Porsche 911 rolled up to the pump, headlights cutting through the dark. The music inside was loud enough to rattle the soda display. A boy, barely 20, stepped out, wearing a designer hoodie and a smirk that cost more than Ethan's entire paycheck. His name was Liam Brooks, heir to Brooks Automotive, one of the richest families in the state. He didn't notice Ethan at first. People like him rarely did. "Fill it up." "Premium," Liam said, tossing his keys casually at Ethan. They fell short, landing in a puddle of oil. Ethan picked them up without a word. "Sure thing, sir." As he started the pump, Liam scrolled through his phone, laughing at something on social media. Another car pulled up behind him, a sleek convertible with 2 girls inside. They waved. He waved back. Then he pointed at Ethan. "You see this guy?" Liam said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Working night shifts just to afford rent. What a life, huh?" The girls giggled awkwardly. Ethan felt the sting but kept his face blank. He'd learned long ago that pride doesn't pay bills. When the tank was full, he replaced the nozzle and wiped his hands. "That'll be $64.30. Liam smirked, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a single coin, a shiny silver dollar. "Here, champ," he said, flicking it toward Ethan. "Buy yourself a dream." The coin hit the ground with a metallic ring, spinning in the puddle of fuel before coming to rest beside Ethan's boot. The girls laughed, the Porsche roared, and they drove off into the night, leaving behind tire smoke and humiliation. Ethan stared at the coin for a long time. He wanted to throw it, to chase after that car, to shout something that would make them understand what it feels like to be invisible. But instead, he picked up the coin, wiped it clean, and slipped it into his pocket. Because deep down, something inside him whispered, "Remember this." That night, as he closed the station, Ethan walked home through the cold. The streets were nearly empty, except for a flickering billboard that read, "Opportunity doesn't come to those who wait, it comes to those who build." He stopped and stared at it. A coin in his pocket, a dream he'd buried years ago, and a humiliation that burned hotter than the neon lights. He didn't know it yet, but that single insult, that single silver coin, would become the spark that would change everything. Because by morning, the man who got mocked for cleaning windshields would hold the deed to the very gas station where it happened. And the world was about to see just how expensive arrogance could be. Ethan didn't sleep that night. He lay on his thin mattress in the small apartment above a laundromat, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun lazily. The silver coin Liam had tossed sat on his nightstand, catching faint streaks of streetlight. Every time it glimmered, Ethan felt the sting of that laugh again. He closed his eyes and tried to forget, but his mind replayed the moment, the Porsche, the sneer, the coin. Then his thoughts drifted to his father. Before he died, his dad used to own Miles Auto Repairs, a modest shop just 2 blocks from where Ethan now worked. When business dried up, the bank took everything, the shop, the house, even the tools his dad had spent 30 years collecting. "Never let anyone tell you what you're worth," his father's voice echoed in memory. "Show them." At 3:14 a.m., Ethan sat up suddenly. His heartbeat was loud in the stillness. He looked at that silver coin, and then he made a decision. By morning, Ethan was sitting in a diner with his old friend Ray, a finance guy who worked at a small investment firm downtown. They hadn't spoken in months, but Ethan knew Ray was one of the few people who believed in his stubborn dreams. Ray stirred his coffee and raised an eyebrow. So let me get this straight. You want to buy the gas station where you work? Ethan nodded. The owner, Mr. Patel, told me last month he's thinking of retiring. I just didn't think I could afford it. But maybe. Ray chuckled softly. You're serious. I'm done being the guy people laugh at, Ray. I've been running that place for years without realizing it. I know the customers, I handle deliveries, I keep it running when the pumps break. It's my station in everything but name. Ray leaned back. It's not a bad idea. Patel's property value is low because of the location. If you could secure even a small loan. Ethan cut in. I don't have collateral. The bank turned me down twice already. Ray frowned. Then we find another way. He took out his tablet and started tapping. Patel's listed the place at $78,000. You'll need at least half to get him interested. Ethan's stomach twisted. Half? Ray looked up. You still have that inheritance from your dad's life insurance, right? Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, about $38,000 left. I was saving it for something big. Ray smiled. This is big. 2 hours later, they were sitting in Mr. Patel's office, a cramped space behind the convenience store counter. The old man looked surprised when Ethan made the offer. You want to buy the station? Patel said, leaning forward, his thick glasses sliding down his nose. Yes, sir. I've worked here for years. I know how to run it, how to fix it. You said you were thinking about retiring. Patel studied him for a long time. It's a lot of responsibility, Ethan. I've had offers before, from franchise buyers, even from Brooks Gas. Ethan's heart skipped. Brooks, the same name as the spoiled kid who tossed the coin. Patel sighed. They wanted to turn it into a branded outlet. Replace my store with a fancy logo and overpriced snacks. I said no. But I won't lie, they offered me good money. Ethan leaned forward. I can't match them now, but I promise I'll grow this place. Keep it local. Keep it real. You've known me long enough to know I mean that. Patel looked at him over his glasses. Then he smiled faintly. You remind me of me when I started this place. Hungry. Honest. He extended his hand. I'll sell it to you, Ethan. For $40,000. Ethan froze. 40. I want this station in good hands, Patel said simply. And yours are the only ones I trust. By noon, Ethan signed the papers. By 4 p.m., he was standing outside the gas station, now his gas station, with a small envelope of documents in his hand. The sign above the pump still read Patel's Fuel and Service, but soon it would change. The sun was bright, the sky clear. Customers came and went, unaware that the man behind the counter was no longer just the attendant. He was the owner. He found himself smiling for the first time in months. Then, as if fate had been listening, the familiar roar of the midnight blue Porsche echoed across the lot. Liam Brooks. He pulled up, sunglasses on, music blaring, acting like the world still belonged to him. Ethan's chest tightened, but this time, there was no anger. Only quiet anticipation. Liam didn't even look up when he called out, Yo, gas boy! Fill her up, premium. And be quick. I'm late for a meeting. Ethan walked toward the car, steady and calm. Sure thing, he said, inserting the nozzle. Same as last time? Liam glanced over, confused. What do you mean, same as last time? Ethan's lips curved into a faint smile. Just wondering if you wanted to pay with another coin. Liam frowned, clearly not remembering. What are you talking about? Ethan didn't answer. He finished fueling, then walked back inside the office. When Liam followed to pay, he froze. Behind the counter, where Mr. Patel's family photos once hung, was a brand new ownership certificate, framed neatly, bearing one bold name. Ethan Miles, owner and operator, Oak Ridge Fuel and Service. Liam's jaw went slack. Wait, what? Ethan met his gaze evenly. Welcome back. For a long second, Liam couldn't process what he was seeing. The ownership certificate glared at him from behind the glass frame, neat and official: Ethan Miles, owner and operator. The same man he'd mocked, the same man he'd flipped a coin at like a street beggar, now stood calmly behind the counter that Liam thought was beneath him. "This some kind of joke?" Liam finally said, forcing a chuckle that didn't sound convincing even to himself. Ethan leaned casually on the counter, the corner of his mouth lifting. "No joke. Signed the papers this morning. Patel's retiring. I guess he decided to hand over the keys to someone who actually gives a damn about this place." The words hit like quiet gunfire. Ethan didn't raise his voice, but there was power behind every syllable. Liam's eyes darted to the other customers in line. They weren't paying attention, just people buying coffee and gas, but somehow he felt like everyone could see through him. He tried to recover his composure. "Well, good for you, I guess," he said, flashing a fake smile. "Guess the American dream really does work for anyone." Ethan smiled back, but his eyes stayed steady, unflinching. "It does, as long as you're willing to work for it." Liam forced out a laugh and reached for his wallet. "How much do I owe you?" Ethan looked down at the register. "That'll be $63.75. Liam slid his black titanium credit card across the counter, his pride trying to rebuild itself brick by brick. Ethan took the card, swiped it, then paused for a moment before handing it back. "Oh," he said casually. "And about your last visit?" Liam looked up. Ethan placed something small and silver on the counter between them, the same coin. Liam blinked. "What's that?" "You tossed it at me," Ethan said softly. "Said I should buy myself a dream. So I did." For a moment, there was nothing but silence. The air between them was electric, sharp as a knife. Liam's face flushed. "Look, I don't even remember that. I was just having fun." Ethan finished for him. "Yeah, I figured. Funny thing about fun, though. Sometimes it comes back to remind you who you were." Liam's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, he looked small. Not because of his height or his money, but because of what was left when the arrogance fell away. Ethan picked up the coin again, turning it over between his fingers. "Keep it," Liam muttered, voice tight. Ethan nodded. "Oh, I intend to." Then he placed it neatly on a small wooden shelf behind him, right next to the framed certificate. A reminder, a symbol. Liam turned to leave, his pride in shambles. But just before he stepped outside, Ethan called after him. "Hey, Liam." Liam froze. "You said you had a meeting, right?" Ethan continued, leaning slightly forward. "You might want to make sure it's not here. I heard Brooks Automotive is trying to buy this place out." Liam turned slowly, confusion flickering in his eyes. "How do you?" "I read the papers," Ethan said simply. "You'd be surprised how much a guy learns when he's not looking down on people." That night, word spread fast. The local paper printed a small story. "Local attendant buys gas station. Says hard work never goes out of style." It wasn't front-page news, but it made waves online, especially when someone posted a photo of Ethan standing proudly in front of his station, arms crossed, coin in hand. The caption read, "He bought the place they laughed at him for working in." The post went viral. Thousands of shares. Comments flooded in. Some cheering, others confessing guilt for how often they'd ignored the little guys. Liam saw it the next morning. His phone buzzed nonstop with notifications, his friends sending him the link with laughing emojis. "Hey, isn't this your gas boy?" one text read. "Bro, you made this dude famous," said another. He threw the phone onto his bed and ran a hand over his face. For the first time in a long time, the laughter wasn't aimed at someone else. He opened his laptop, staring at the Brooks Automotive stock reports. His father had been pushing him to take more responsibility, to find a real deal, a real acquisition. And now, staring at the article, something inside him shifted. For the first time, Liam wanted to earn something, not just inherit it. He closed his laptop and whispered to himself, maybe it's time I learned who really builds the dream. Meanwhile, at Oak Ridge Station, business was booming. Ethan introduced new services, tire checks, car washes, affordable repairs. Word spread that his shop was honest, reliable, and community-based. He didn't put up fancy signs or wear suits. He just showed up, every day. And every time he unlocked the door, he'd glance at that silver coin glinting on the shelf. It reminded him of the night someone tried to buy his dignity, and accidentally bought his motivation instead. The glass towers of Brooks' automotive headquarters shimmered in the morning sun. A fortress of chrome, ambition, and old money. Inside the top floor office, Richard Brooks, CEO and patriarch of the Brooks Empire, adjusted his tie and reviewed the morning reports. Revenue was up, expansion plans were on track, and a new proposal, a chain of premium fueling stations, sat neatly in a folder marked priority. Oak Ridge region. Across from him sat his son, Liam, noticeably quieter than usual. No designer hoodie today, just a stiff-collared shirt and eyes that couldn't quite meet his father's. So, Richard said, flipping open the file, you said you had a lead on a gas station worth acquiring. Patel's Fuel and Service, right? Liam nodded. Yes, but there's been a development. Richard glanced up. A development? Liam swallowed hard. Patel sold the place to one of his employees, guy named Ethan Miles. The name rolled off his tongue like something heavy. Richard frowned. A gas attendant owns it now? Yes, sir. Richard gave a humorless chuckle. That's impressive. For him. Irrelevant to us. We'll buy him out. Liam hesitated. Dad, I don't think he'll sell. Richard's eyes narrowed slightly. Everyone sells, Liam. That's how business works. Make him an offer. I already tried, Liam said quietly. He turned it down. That got his father's full attention. You what? I offered him double what Patel asked me for last year. He said he'd rather build something than sell it. Richard leaned back in his chair, studying his son. And you're sure he's not just bluffing? Liam's jaw clenched. No, he meant it. Richard folded his hands. Interesting. Let's set up a meeting. I want to meet this Ethan Miles myself. Later that week, Ethan got a call. A smooth, confident voice introduced himself. Mr. Miles? Richard Brooks here. I'd like to discuss a potential partnership opportunity. My son mentioned your station. Ethan recognized the name immediately. The same family behind the Porsche. The same name on the credit card Liam had thrown at him months ago. Sure, Ethan said calmly. Come by any time. When the black limousine pulled up outside Oak Ridge Fuel and Service, customers stopped to stare. Richard Brooks stepped out. Tall, dignified, the kind of man whose handshake could close $1 million deal. He looked around, the clean forecourt, the new signage, the organized shop. He was clearly impressed. Ethan met him outside, wearing his work shirt, sleeves rolled up, a faint smudge of oil on his wrist. Mr. Brooks, Ethan said, extending his hand. Welcome to Oak Ridge. Richard shook it, surprised at the firm confidence in the gesture. Mr. Miles, I have to admit, I didn't expect a local gas station to look this efficient. Ethan smiled slightly. That's because most people underestimate what small hands can build. Richard's brow arched. He liked the fire in this man already. They walked inside, the faint hum of machinery filling the air. My son tells me you've turned this place around in record time, Richard said. Ethan shrugged modestly. Just cleaned it up, gave people a reason to come back. Folks around here don't want luxury. They want honesty. Richard nodded slowly. And what if I told you honesty can scale? Brooks Automotive is expanding. We want to build stations across the state. We could use someone with your insight, someone who knows the ground-level operations. Ethan paused, reading between the lines. You're offering a partnership? Richard smiled. A generous one. You'd stay in charge of Oak Ridge, but we'd acquire partial ownership for brand expansion. It's a win-win. Ethan looked thoughtful. And your son? Richard glanced sideways. Liam's young, still learning. Ethan's tone stayed level, but his words carried weight. He's the reason I bought this place. Richard frowned slightly. Go on. Ethan gestured toward the counter, where the silver coin gleamed under the light. Your son threw that at me, called me a gas boy, told me to buy a dream. Richard's eyes flickered with surprise, then discomfort. I did, Ethan continued quietly. Bought it with everything I had. There was no anger in his voice, just the quiet strength of a man who'd already won. For a long moment Richard said nothing. Then slowly he nodded. My son was wrong. Ethan met his gaze. We've all been wrong at some point. What matters is what we build after. Richard exhaled, deeply. You know, Mr. Miles, I came here to offer a deal. But I think I just found a teacher instead. The next day, Richard brought Liam back to the station. The moment Liam stepped out of the car and saw Ethan again, he looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Ethan was checking oil levels when he heard their footsteps. He straightened, wiping his hands, eyes calm. Morning, Ethan said. Liam swallowed hard. Hey, Richard gestured between them. Son, this is your chance to fix what you broke. Liam hesitated, then stepped forward. Ethan, I'm sorry, for what I said, for how I treated you. It was stupid, and I didn't. Ethan raised a hand. Stop, you don't owe me words. Just do better with your next chance. Liam's throat tightened. I will. Ethan nodded. Good. Then let's get to work. That week, something extraordinary happened. Ethan agreed to partner with Brooks Automotive, but on his terms. Every new Brooks fueling station would include community-based programs, job training for low-income youth, and scholarship funds for trade schools. The first pilot? Oak Ridge. Ethan oversaw every detail. He hired local workers, repainted the walls, and created a mentorship program for young mechanics. Within months, Oak Ridge Fuel became more than a gas stop. It became a symbol of second chances. And every morning, as the sun rose over the pumps, Ethan would see Liam out there, cleaning windshields, shaking hands, learning what his father never could teach him with money. One morning, Ethan stood beside Richard as they watched Liam help a customer. He's changed, Richard said quietly. Ethan smiled. So did I. Richard looked at him. You ever think you'd own all this? Ethan chuckled softly. No, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to stay small just because someone said I should. 6 months later, the ballroom of the Hilton Grand Hotel buzzed with laughter, applause, and the faint clinking of champagne glasses. The massive banner hanging above the stage read, Brooks Automotive and Oak Ridge Fuel, Partnership Gala, Redefining Community. Rows of business leaders, investors, and journalists filled the hall. Flashing cameras and expensive perfumes filled the air. At the front table, Ethan Miles sat in a crisp dark blue suit, the same man who once mopped fuel stains under flickering lights. To his left sat Richard Brooks, calm and dignified. To his right, Liam Brooks, dressed formally, fidgeting nervously with the microphone he'd soon have to use. The host's voice boomed over the speakers. Tonight, we celebrate a partnership that proves success isn't about where you start. It's about what you build along the way. Applause echoed. Lights dimmed. The host smiled and continued. And now, I'd like to invite Mr. Liam Brooks to the stage for a few words. Liam froze for a second. Ethan gave him a reassuring nod. Richard gestured. Go on. Liam took a deep breath, stood up, and walked toward the podium. The microphone squeaked slightly as he adjusted it. He looked out at the glittering crowd, the same kind of people who used to laugh with him, not at him. And for the first time, he wasn't thinking about impressing them. He was thinking about earning respect. Good evening, he began, voice a little shaky. My name is Liam Brooks. Most of you know me as the Director of Regional Development at Brooks Automotive. But tonight, I'm not here as an executive. He paused, glancing toward Ethan. I'm here as a student. The audience quieted. About a year ago, Liam continued, I made a mistake. I met a man at a gas station. A man I looked down on because of what he wore, not who he was. I thought success looked like a shiny car, a nice suit, and a last name that opened doors. A few heads turned toward Ethan. He sat still, humble, eyes calm. I tossed him a coin, Liam said, his voice breaking slightly, and told him to buy a dream. What I didn't realize was that he already had one, and the only thing missing was someone who believed in it. The room went completely silent. No glasses clinked, no whispers, just pure, heavy stillness. Liam swallowed hard, then smiled softly. That man is now my mentor, my business partner, and the reason this entire partnership exists. Please welcome the man who taught me what real success means, Mr. Ethan Miles. The applause exploded. Cameras flashed. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then stood up, straightened his tie, and walked to the stage. Liam stepped back, offering him the microphone with both hands, a gesture that carried more weight than any corporate title ever could. Ethan looked out over the crowd, the lights reflecting in his eyes. He wasn't nervous. Not anymore. When I worked at that gas station, he began, people didn't see me. They saw a uniform. They saw hands that smelled like oil and fuel. But what they missed was that every person you pass, every worker you ignore, every face you dismiss, might just be someone building something greater than you can imagine. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Ethan continued, his tone calm and firm. We live in a world that measures worth in cars, money, titles. But none of that builds a legacy. Character does. Kindness does. Work does. He looked directly at Liam. And sometimes the lesson doesn't come from the top floor of a skyscraper. It comes from the ground where people actually live. A standing ovation erupted. Some people were even tearing up. Richard Brooks stood and clapped the loudest. That's the best speech I've ever heard, he said proudly. Liam smiled, eyes glistening. Ethan nodded once. No gloating, no revenge, just quiet gratitude. Later that night, after the lights dimmed and the guests left, Ethan stood alone on the balcony overlooking the city. The skyline sparkled. The same skyline he used to stare at from his grimy apartment window, wondering if he'd ever belong. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the silver coin, the same one Liam had tossed at him that night. It gleamed softly under the moonlight. Liam walked up beside him. Still keeping that thing? He asked with a small laugh. Ethan smiled. Always. It's a reminder that sometimes the lowest moments don't break us. They build us. Liam nodded slowly. You built more than a business, Ethan. You built me. Ethan clapped him gently on the shoulder. Then make sure you build someone else next. They stood there for a while in silence, watching the city lights below. Two men, one who had learned humility, and one who had found dignity, sharing a quiet moment that no money could buy. A few months later, the first Brooks Miles Community Station opened. A brand new facility with solar panels, job training programs, and a scholarship wall bearing the names of local students. At the entrance, a plaque read, "Built by the hands they once overlooked." Ethan ran the station personally, but now he wasn't just a business owner, he was a symbol. A reminder that respect, like success, isn't given, it's earned. And every morning, as sunlight spilled across the pumps, Ethan would tap the coin in his pocket, smile and whisper, "Here's to the dream I bought for $1."